So a couple of days ago, one of my friends who happens to live in America asked me what my opinion was about the whole gold mafia thing. We were just talking on WhatsApp and she said, "Yo, you're one of those opinionated people, so what do you think about the gold mafia?" At first, my reaction was basically nonchalant because I didn't think there was nothing to see there because we all know that looting and stealing has been rampant in our country for quite some time, perhaps ever since Zimbabwe became Zimbabwe. Stealing, looting, corruption has been the order of the day. So I really didn't care what Al Jazeera was saying. I really didn't care when those people were being exposed because I was like, it's not news. We have all known that this has been happening for a long time. We have seen through the news people like Henrietta Fwaya being caught red-handed with bags full of gold at the airport. Nothing happening to them. We have even heard the former president R.G. Mugabe saying that 15 billion in diamonds was stolen. We have all heard these stories before. It even goes as far back as the 90s when Willowville was looted. We used to make cars or assembly. We used to assemble cars. Mazda, Willowville was a big employer in the country. They assembled buses, they made bodies. We would just import engines and we would make nice frames and we would, make cars in Zimbabwe. But Willowville was looted and nobody got charged. A lot of ministers got dragged, but ultimately nobody got charged. So I really didn't care at first when this Al Jazeera thing came out, But thinking about it, it made me just reminisce about my time as a politically active, not in the sense that I would gather people or I would go campaigning or I would attend rallies, but I was at some point politically active and conscious and very sensitive. If any little thing happened, I was there. I would give my opinion. I would talk about this stuff. I would get angry. I would get riled up. But as I grow older, I seem to care less and less about these things. But I still have this niggling feeling inside of me that these things, maybe we need to talk about them more. But then again, we have been talking about them for donkey years, for decades. For 4 decades now, we've been talking about the same things and nothing seems to happen. So when my friend asked me what I thought about the gold mafia scandal, I told her that I really didn't care. But really, it affects us. It affects me as a Zimbabwean. So to some level, you have to care about things like this. Why have we gotten to this point? And a lot of Zimbabwean speakers have been saying, why have we gotten to this point since 99 when Changirai and the guys formed the MDC? What went on in their minds was like, how have we gotten to this point? Things are bad. Corruption is rampant. Service delivery is pathetic. Sewage is, just bursting and flowing in the streets. No electricity, no public transport. It made them angry and it made them act, and they formed the MDC. As a young Zimbabwean, a born free, I think I can be forgiven for being as cynical as I am about these things because I realize just how powerless as an individual I am and how powerless as individuals we are because we are up against a system that's way, way stronger than our efforts. But what we should realize is when these thugs came to power, these ZANU-PF elites, when they came to power, they had really good intentions. It was about education for the people, healthcare for the people, building schools, building clinics, public works, all of that good stuff. But I don't know how corruption just ate through the establishment to a point where they really stopped bothering about the welfare of the general public. And I was born in the 90s, so I'm really a born free by all definitions. And all I have known is corruption. All I have known is the environment of fear, wherein anyone who tries to speak up will face the wrath of the government, will face the wrath of the system. But it's really, it's pathetic what's happening. It's sad, but the question is, what do we do? Do we vote for Chamisa? We have tried voting for the opposition since 2000. We did it in 2008, and the facade of democracy was torn down. Violence was unleashed. I used to live in the rural areas back in those days, and people would be gathered, and the war vets would say, who voted for the MDC? And people would point fingers in the community. He did it, she did it. Civil servants, teachers, nurses, those who were educated by the standards of my environment, they were treated with suspicion because it was known that they were opposition supporters, and they got beat up, they got harassed, some got killed. I don't know anyone personally who got killed, but I know several people who got beat up, brutalized. One of the guys who worked for environmental health, Sanana, he was so traumatized that when his wife gave birth to a son, he named him Gabriel after Robert Mugabe. You can just imagine the level of mental trauma that he went through. What was going on in his mind for him to do something like that? The thing with our country is we have gotten so used to the corruption that it's now part of the furniture. Everybody participates. Even I myself, I have unwittingly participated in some really shady and corrupt activities, and not to the extent that, I can be considered part of the mafia, but no Zimbabwean can really say that they have never paid a bribe. No Zimbabwean can say that they have never really greased the wheels. It could be when you wanted to get something done, when you went to a hospital and you wanted medication and someone would just give it to you on the side. It could be when you went to get your driver's license. 70% of people who got their driver's license, at some point they had to pay someone in order to get it. If you didn't pay, the instructor would just fail you. If you owned a business, you had to pay. If you were a combi operator, if you were a driver, you really can't stay away from this thing. You had to pay at some point. You would get stuck at the roadblock for donkey years if you refused to pay the bribe. So I'm not trying to blame the victim here, but I'm just trying to illustrate how corruption and bribery has been interwoven in our culture to such an extent that it's no longer surprising. It's part of what we do. I don't mean to single out the police, but it is the arm of the government that I interacted with, and I ended up seeing just how deep the corruption was. Everybody knew it. Roadblocks were money-making schemes. It's sad, but it's our culture. So it is for that reason that I really wasn't surprised or shocked when the documentary came out. All it did was just show how they do their thing, how they do their business. It's embarrassing for someone like Hubert Angel to be caught on camera bragging about how he can use his diplomatic privileges to smuggle money. He literally said, I can just put a red tape around my bag and no one will search me. I can move any amount of money. My bag will not be searched until it gets to Zimbabwe. Zvinotsamwisa. Anyone who doesn't benefit from that system should be angry when that happens. And it happens more often than we think. Personally, this year, I had an experience with Zimpost that's left a very, very bad, bitter taste in my mouth. I shipped my little sister and cousin some cell phones. I went to the post office. I did everything, packed it nicely. It was weighed, it was tracked. But then someone from the post office just stole it. I tried calling them and asked, oh, where's the package? And they were like, oh, maybe it's still with Zimbra, maybe this and that. I was like, okay, can I get the supervisor's phone number? I got the supervisor's phone number. He was like, oh, this package, okay. It's like if you ask someone for a package and they're like, whose package is it? And let's say it's John's package. And they say, oh, John's package, okay, we'll take a look. It was clear that the package had been received. But just because they knew there was a valuable cell phone and electronics in it, they just chose to steal it because they knew I couldn't really do anything about it. It is our culture. It is the modus operandi, how things are run in our country. And it's terrible. You know, for someone like a prophet to be caught on 4K and broadcast on international television for doing something like this, it's embarrassing to the whole nation, but we are so far gone that it's not surprising. Embarrassing, yes. Shocking, no. I saw a video of Passion Java trying to rationalize what was happening, trying to say that he meaning Hubert Angel was trying to see how shady people operate. He was trapping them while they were entrapping him. No sane person can buy that silly explanation and rationalization. It's indefensible, but still people try to defend it. Our country is plagued by many problems, and our culture is mostly to blame. We even glorify the people who steal from us. We have a culture of glorifying the Mbingas. There's nothing like an honest Mbinga. For someone to make so much money in Zimbabwe, you have to engage in some shady business. It's not possible in Zimbabwe to make clean millions. It's simply not possible. I do not care how they sell it to you that they are hard workers, they are blessed. It's not possible. And the sooner we start to recognize that all of those Mbinga types are gangsters, they are mafias, the sooner we will accept the truth and the reality of what is happening on the ground. We waste our time gravitating towards these prophets. I do not care which prophet you go to. He is a charlatan. Any person who calls themselves a prophet is a charlatan, an opportunist, a thief, mbava. It takes a certain kind of person to accept tithe from a suffering Zimbabwean and use it to live a luxurious life and then say it's blessings from God. I don't care if it is Magaya buying his BMW, building a house that's worth millions, and then saying he is being blessed by God. No. The reason why people gravitate toward those people is not that they rationalize that these people are blessed by God. It's because they are sold the dream that they themselves too could get in a position of being as rich as those guys. It's like crabs in a bucket, stepping over each other to get to the top. Getting hoodwinked by these pastors, giving them money, seed money, getting sold pipe dreams. There is nothing like an honest Mbinga. And we glorify those people. On social media, we follow them. You see people gathering around Passion Java when he pulls up Mugeto, getting given chicken in, madola, shouting, Machimbiga, Binka, 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 Binka. It's sad. It's a sad spectacle to watch. And the reason why these things happen is because there is no economy to speak of in Zimbabwe. So we have, especially my generation, we have been raised by the mantra that if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. You have to work hard. You have to be self-employed. You have to hustle. And it's a good survival tactic. It works for some, but it won't get us anywhere as a society. Everybody thinks that if they work really hard, if they try really hard, if they do cross-border, if they go and do gold panning, if they do buying and selling, if they do whatever, they might just end up being one of those bingers. But the truth is, most of us will die in poverty. And I don't see what we benefit from glorifying, defending, and bootlicking these Mbinga characters. You see, say weakness, Instagram. Hundreds of thousands of followers. But he's the same guy who's been allegedly getting tenders and not delivering. There is this project in Matebelelen where he was supposed to do a renewable energy project, solar panels and all that jazz, so that the nation can have power. That money was embezzled, allegedly. I don't want to be dragged to court over these things, but these are open secrets. We all know these Mbingas, these runners who work on behalf of big government chefs. And they have the audacity to go on social media and flaunt their wealth. And we, the people who they steal from, we give them likes. When they go on lives, we go and give them props. When Passion Java comes to Zimbabwe, everybody is trying their darndest to get close to him so that they can have a piece of the pie. It's a sad, sad, sad spectacle. This Mbinga culture has got to die. Most of us will never be Mbinga. We should stop worshipping them. They are stealing from us. They are looting. And we need to wake up to the fact that they are doing that. I'm glad that the people on Twitter, they are really, really proactive. They talk about these things. And I'm one of the people who talk about these things. But what plan do we have as a nation to right these wrongs? Because the majority of us will never ever benefit from the system. We are scattered all over the globe. Most Zimbabweans are in self-imposed exile. We are economic immigrants. In South Africa, millions of us are there. We are treated with contempt. Last year, one of our brothers was burnt alive. We have a home. We have a country that we belong to. We have natural wealth. We have the wealth that is the people. Human resources. But we let a few people get away with crimes just because we feel powerless. This year, we're going to have elections. The ruling party is going to win again. That's a given. And in 2028, we're going to have elections. The ruling party is going to win again. I was asked, what's your opinion, Panye Gold Mafia? And I was like, I don't care. I'm getting apathetic. But apathy will lead us nowhere. It's our country. It's our legacy. We have to do something about it. Back in the 1890s, our ancestors got fed up. They got fed up. They got fed up nekutreatwa as second-class citizens in their own country. They got fed up nekuiswa reserves and productive lands, while a few foreigners, aliens, enjoyed the wealth of our country. And they realized that they had to do something, and they did something through Chimurenga 1. Those people were just human, flesh and blood like us. They fought against difficult odds, impossible odds, and they lost. But I have respect for them because they tried. Then, in the 1940s, a generation of Africans also realized that the fight that was started, Nanambuya Nehanda, was the only way for us to gain our liberation. And they stood up against my odds angari so difficult and impossible. And they fought, and some died, so that we can have self-rule. But that fight is not over, because most of those people who brought us self-rule are now again colonizing us. They are the new colonizers. So while we are sold the idea that we are free, we have liberation and independence, the truth is only a select few got into Zimbabwe. Most of us are still living in Rhodesia. Very few are enjoying the Zimbabwe that we fought for, that we died for, that we bled for. And we're just letting them get away with it. I do not advocate for violence against our fellow black people. I do not advocate for bloodshed. But I also do not advocate for kungonyarara tichibirwa. We have to do something. Maybe we need strong leaders like Morgan Tsvangirai. Maybe we need a Moses to take us from this Egypt that we are living in. Maybe we'll get him. But at the rate we are going, things are most likely to be the same for quite some time. So as we head into these elections this year, if you want, go vote. If you want, register. But it's a waste of time. It's time we start having this conversation that what are we going to do? Voting hasn't worked. And this year, it will not work. Simple. So what are we going to do? These people are stealing with impunity. And they even have the guts to ask, Sakam Chaita say. Just imagine, someone stealing from you and then asking, so what you gonna do about it? I think if we are serious about having an opposition party, we need to put someone in charge of that party who has the charisma, the strength, and the fight in him. I appreciate what Chamisa has been through. I appreciate the fact that he has been in the trenches from day one with Tsvangirai ever since he was a young lad. He has been there. But he simply lacks the charisma, the drive, and the fight. Saying God is in it will not serve us. Saying V11s this, V11s that, going to court after losing an election, going to a court that is full of people who perpetuate the same system that you're trying to fight, is a fool's errand. Maybe it's time we consider having someone else galvanize the populace, someone with integrity, someone with drive. I even thought, why not Job Sikala? He is a fighter. He is a realist. He is the type of man that we need at a point like this. Not someone like Chamisa who is just chill. He's out of ideas. He doesn't have any plan to protect our votes, but yet we risk our lives, we waste our time humoring him and his project. I don't know. It's sad that these things are happening, but we really should consider coming up with a realistic plan that will take us out of this quagmire. This is just my 2 cents on the issue. It pains me, it hurts me, and I hope many born-frees like me will really take time to think, and maybe we can have a space where we talk about these things realistically and not cling to false hopes like the CCC, false hopes like elections, to really come up with a plan that will really get us out of this, because this just ain't working. If it was a functional country, this Al Jazeera documentary, heads should be rolling. But nothing is happening. It's just another day. He has been stripped of his status, but there are millions in his place. There are many, many people ready to go and fill in the void left by Hubert Angel. And it's said that his church is still full, his supporters are still behind him, even though he has been exposed like this. It's sad. It's sad.